Greetings and welcome to Fright Night Flix, where every night is Fright Night. After watching Send Help recently, I thought it was finally time to rank all of Sam Raimi's films from worst to best. I've excluded his first feature, It's Murder, because it's extremely hard to access, and The Hudsucker Proxy, because that's primarily a Coen Brothers film, and Raimi only worked on the second unit. So without further ado, here's how I rank the films of Sam Raimi.
Right, off we go then.
Kicking off this list at the very bottom is For Love of the Game, the Kevin Costner baseball drama. Honestly, this is a film Sam Raimi shouldn't have made. The story feels disjointed, Raimi's signature style doesn't mesh with a straightforward sports romance, and Kevin Costner looks exhausted after starring in so many baseball films by this point.
How does Kevin Costner keep getting work?
Technically competent, sure, but lifeless compared to Raimi's usual energy. You can tell Raimi made this out of passion. He loves baseball, but passion alone doesn't make for a good fit. The screenplay is weak, the emotional beats fall flat, and the performances lack spark. Compared to his kinetic, dark, humorous, over-the-top horror and comic book sensibilities, this one feels completely out of place. Sorry, baseball fans, this is Sam Raimi's weakest film. In 15th place is Sam Raimi's first collaboration with Joel and Ethan Coen, Crime Wave. This film is a strange mashup of their styles, fully on slapstick and cartoonish visuals, but the story itself never really grabs you. It's not offensively bad, but it feels hollow. The humour often falls flat, and the narrative is thin and messy, more style than substance. The only reason it isn't dead last on this list is because it had a bit of personality, and you can see hints of Raimi we come to know. Still, I honestly forgot about this film before making this list, so that's why it ranked at 15th.
Oh, look at
In 14th place is The Gift, anchored by a strong leading performance by Cate Blanchett, with Hilary Swank, Giovanni Ribisi and Keanu Reeves rounding out the supporting cast. Blanchett is easily the highlight, and Sam Raimi's moody visuals and Southern Gothic atmosphere make the film pleasant enough to watch. Visually and technically, it's competent, but the story is slow, predictable, and never quite builds the tension it aims for. Raimi attempts at restraint, prestige-style horror just doesn't play to his strengths.
Gee, that's disappointing.
On paper, it feels like an awards bait elaborated by Cate Blanchett's performance, but the material around her never fully comes alive. It's watchable, but one of Raimi's most forgettable efforts. A gift you politely accept and quietly re-gift back. In 13th place is Oz, the Great and Powerful, a visually bold take on the wizard's backstory. Raimi blends his heightened theatrical style with the look and tone of the 1939 classic, giving the film a distinctive, slightly old-fashioned energy that stands out amongst Disney's blockbusters. The cast mostly delivers, and the performances match the fairy tale tone. Sam Raimi's direction gives the film personality, but it doesn't quite click, and the story can feel overstuffed at times. Where it stumbles is in the writing, especially the Wicked Witch's arc, which feels unearned compared to the more nuanced origin stories we've seen in Wicked. It's messy and uneven, but still fun in its own way, earning a place in the lower half of Raimi's filmography. In 12th place, we got Spider-Man 3, which is undeniably the weakest entry in Sam Raimi's iconic Spider-Man trilogy. Raimi cranks the humour way up, and for the most part, it tips over into being too silly. But honestly, that's kind of part of the charm for me. I enjoyed this film because of how awkward and unhinged it can be. It definitely has its moments, and yes, the emo Peter dance is legendary at this point. It's one of those scenes that infamously it basically became a meme, and I kind of love it because of Raimi committing so hard on it.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
That said, compared to the other two masterpieces that came before it, Spider-Man 3 feels like a massive step down. The biggest issue is that it tries to juggle too many villains at once, which means none of them really get the development they deserve. On top of that, the film lacks the sincere, emotional, grounded moments that made Spider-Man, and especially Spider-Man 2, hit so hard. Don't get me wrong, I still prefer this to both Amazing Spider-Man films, but when we're talking specifically about Sam Raimi's trilogy, this is easily the weakest of the three. Just missing out on the top 10 is Sam Raimi's western, The Quick and the Dead, a film I honestly wished I saw when I was younger. When I was a teenager, Leonardo DiCaprio and Russell Crowe were two of my favourite actors, and somehow I completely missed the fact that they all both show up in this film.
Weird.
This Sharon Stone-led western is really an entertaining ride, with Sam Raimi's direction doing a lot of the heavy lifting. His kinetic camera work and heightened style brings a sense of energy to a genre that can sometimes feel a bit stiff, and gives it the jewels and set pieces a real sense of flair. That said, the film does feel like Once Upon a Time in the West, but with a woman at the centre. The revenge-driven loner storyline, the mythic gunslinger tone, it's all familiar territory, just filtered through Raimi's more pulpy comic book sensibilities. Even so, it's a solid 90s western with a great ensemble cast. Sharon Stone is strong in the commanding lead, Leonardo DiCaprio brings an interesting youthful energy, Russell Crowe has a quiet intensity, and the late great Gene Hackman is reliably excellent as the villain. It might not crack my top 10 Sam Raimi films list, but it's still a stylish, fun genre piece, and definitely one of the most underrated gems in his filmography. Before I dive into my top 10 favourite Sam Raimi films, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to Fright Night Flix, and make sure you follow us on social media so you don't miss a single scare. Now, back to the list.
Come on already!
Kicking off the top 10 is Army of Darkness, the third and easily the weirdest entry in the Evil Dead franchise, as well as the last film in the Evil Dead franchise Sam Raimi directed. I get that this film is paying off the ending Sam Raimi set up in Evil Dead 2, but it definitely feels a bit out of place when you look at it as an Evil Dead film. It leans far into the dark fantasy and slapstick comedy than outright horror, which can be jarring if you're expecting the same tone as the first two films.
You didn't see that coming?
That said, it's an absolute blast. The film is endlessly rewatchable, Bruce Campbell is phenomenal as Ash Williams, and Raimi's visual flair makes it stand out as one of the most distinctive entries in his career. The practical effects, the medieval fantasy setting, and the cartoonish energy gives it a cult movie charm that's impossible to deny. It might not hit the horror highs of the early Evil Dead films for me, but as a piece of gonzo fantasy comedy, Army of Darkness is a ridiculously fun time. In ninth place, we got Sam Raimi's first superhero film, Darkman. And I honestly love that Raimi was out here doing an original superhero story long before he ever joined the Marvel machine.
No way!
Darkman has a strong, pulpy story, fantasy comic book visuals, and two really strong leads from Liam Neeson and Frances McDormand. Their chemistry works surprisingly well, grounding what is otherwise a very high and almost cartoonish revenge fantasy. You can see Raimi experimenting here with the kind of visual language he'd later refine in the Spider-Man trilogy. The stylish camera work, the exaggerated villains, and that mix of sincerity and comic book melodrama. It's not a perfect film by any means, but it's a really important one in his career, and I still think it's a genuine fun watch. For me, it earns a spot in the top 10 as a stylish original superhero film that feels refreshingly different from the endless franchise stuff we get today. In 8th place, we got Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, which honestly works far better as a Sam Raimi film than it does a typical MCU film.
That was impressively cunty.
Raimi's direction is easy to highlight here. The visuals flourish, horror-leaning step pieces, and bursts of unhinged energy feel like Raimi finally being allowed to play in a Marvel sandbox, and you can really feel his fingerprints all over this thing. The performances are also a big plus, especially Elizabeth Olsen, who fully commits to a darker turn as Wanda, and Joshua Gomez, who brings a lot of heart as the newcomer of the franchise. What holds it back for me is the weak screenplay. The multiverse concept feels completely undercooked, the emotional beats don't always land, and Benedict Cumberbatch, while still charismatic, feels like he's on autopilot compared to the intensity around him. It's not a bad performance, but it definitely lacks the spark you hope from the film's lead. Still, Raimi's influence pushes this into a really fun direction. It's messy, sure, but it's also bold, visually intensive, and easily the closest the MCU has had to a straight-up horror film. For that alone, it easily earns a place in my top 10 Raimi rankings. In 7th place is Raimi's scariest and most hilarious film, Drag Me to Hell. The first time I watched it, I was generally on edge the whole way through. On the second viewing though, I found myself laughing my head off. That's the kind of magic trick of this movie. It's a proper horror, but it's also pure Raimi camp. This is horror at its most entertaining. Thanks to Raimi's gleeful, mean-spirited writing and direction, the film constantly balances shock with slapstick and somehow makes both work at the same time. Alison Lohman gives a phenomenal lead performance, grounding all the madness with a surprisingly sincere emotional arc.
You coconut.
It's a nasty, chaotic, ridiculous, fun ride that I think a lot of people still overlook when they talk about modern horror. If you want Raimi at his most unhinged, throwing gross out gags, jump scares, and pitch black humour at the screen, this is him in his full form. Just to warn you guys, this film will actually make sure you think twice about being rude to an old person. Landing at number 6 is Raimi's latest movie, Send Help, which marks his first full-blown horror film since Drag Me to Hell, and honestly, it feels like a proper return to form for him.
He's back!
Going in, I expected a straight-up horror riff on Castaway, but what I got more felt like a twisted survival satire in the veins of Triangle of Sadness, only meaner, funnier, and far more entertaining. The film flips the power dynamic between its two leads in a really fun, satisfying way, and watching that shift play out is where a lot of the tension and dark humour come from. Raimi's trademark style is all over us, the bold colours, the hyperactive camera work, the campy, almost old-school horror energy, and of course, the glory over-the-top jump scares. It all feels like classic Raimi Unleashed. Bill Pope's cinematography is slick, the production on VFX sell the madness, and the pacing never really lets up. The film lives and dies on its two leads, and thankfully both deliver. Rachel McAdams is fantastic, completely disappearing into a role and selling the character's transformation in a way that feels earned. Dylan O'Brien is equally strong, leaning into playing a truly awful boss and showcasing a darker side of his range that we don't normally see from him. It's not perfect, the satire to me a bit on the nose at times, but as a Raimi horror film, Send Help is funny, nasty, stylish, and ridiculously entertaining. It's the kind of movie that reminds you why people fell in love with Sam Raimi in the first place. Kicking off the top 5 is Sam Raimi's first mainstream feature, The Evil Dead, the film that truly showcases his signature blend of horror and comedy. This is a movie that will have you laughing 1 second and screaming the next. Yes, even that infamous tree scene, if you know you know.
You're goddamn right.
Raimi takes the classic Cabin in the Woods formula and injects it with possession horror, invented camera work, and unrelenting energy. Bruce Campbell delivers a performance that cements him as a B-list legend, perfectly balancing horror, physical comedy, and sheer over-the-top bravos. But beyond the performances, The Evil Dead established Raimi's style as at its core, invented, chaotic, and unapologetically fun. It's rough around the edge, wildly gory, and pure adrenaline, the perfect introduction to a director who'd always go on to refine modern horror. Just missing the top 3 is Spider-Man, the film that first put Sam Raimi on my radar. Even if some of the flaws are more noticeable now, it still stands as one of the best superhero origin stories ever made.
Nice.
The film is iconic, packed with memorable moments, and remains generally fun to watch even in 2026. Raimi's direction gives it a sense of energy and heart that a lot of superheroes pre-2008 simply don't have. Tobey Maguire and Willem Dafoe are perfectly cast, the emotional beats land, and the action still thrives. Spider-Man isn't just a great superhero film, it's one of the standouts of its era, and a high point in Raimi's career. Before I reveal my top 3, drop me a comment down below of what's your favourite Sam Raimi film, or how would you rank his films from worst to best. And make sure you check out all my past videos on the channel, including 3 reviews of his films that I've done. Now, back to the list.
But I want it now!
Taking the bronze medal is Sam Raimi's 1998 thriller, A Simple Plan, which I see as his most serious and grounded film, and one that lets him flex a different kind of creativity.
If you're good at something, never do it for free.
The performances are fantastic. Bill Paxton, Bridget Fonda, and Billy Bob Thornton, with Thornton giving a strong, nuanced portrayal of a neurodivergent character, elevate the tension and emotional weight throughout. The story is thrilling and intense from start to finish, and Sam Raimi's direction keeps every moment sharp, suspenseful, and cinematic. This is the Raimi film that proves he's more than just a horror director or a superhero director. It's intelligent, perfectly paced, and emotionally gripping, a masterclass in thriller filmmaking, and one I highly think is underrated. My runner-up is Evil Dead 2, which might surprise some people this isn't at number 1. It's easily my favourite horror film that Raimi has made, and my favourite entry in the Evil Dead series. I love how it manages to feel like a remake a reboot and a sequel all at once, where Raimi cranks the energy, horror and humour to full blast. From start to finish, it's wild, an invented ride, visually daring, hilariously gory and endlessly rewatchable.
Wow. Let's do that again.
No! No!
This is a great film in every sense, and I can't wait to do a full review of it one day. That said, I still prefer another Sam Raimi sequel, although as my boss liked to remind me, this film exists. And number one of my favourite Sam Raimi film of all time is Spider-Man 2, which is also my favourite Marvel film of all time. On the surface, it's a superhero movie, but at its core, it's a deep character study about a man struggling to balance his personal life with his responsibilities as a hero, and that's why it makes it so powerful. The addition of Dr. Octopus, the perfect timed humour, and the iconic set pieces like the train sequence all elevate the stakes while keeping the heart of the story intact. Raimi perfectly balances action, emotion and humour in a way that few superheroes achieve. To me, Spider-Man 2 is a masterpiece that doesn't nearly get enough credit or in-depth analysis, and that's why it ranks the top spot for me as my favourite Sam Raimi film.
Yeah, well, that's just like your opinion, man.
Thank you all for watching today's video. Join me next time when I review Scream 6. But until then, stay spooky, and remember, every night is Fright Night.